All right. Hey, good morning, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Monday, August 28th, 2023. This is your morning tropical update. We continue to focus on Tropical Storm Idalia, still centered in the Western Caribbean this morning. Uh, very close to hurricane intensity, likely will be later today. Still moving northward, still going to cross the Gulf of Mexico, and still coming as a very significant hurricane threat to Florida. Now, explicitly forecast to be a major hurricane, Category 3 plus, at landfall on Wednesday. So this is going to be the bulk of our video today. We are going to be tracking the storm all throughout landfall. This is another kind of quicker update this morning. We're just going to talk impacts and the latest cone. We're not going to go into all the weather mumbo jumbo for the most part. And I'm not going to have another one because I really need to get some sleep after this. And at this point, the weather stuff is what it is. It's not very necessary at this point. We got to kind of switch gears here as we do from talking about weather and theory and what could be to okay, we have what we have. We need to start talking about action and impacts and things like that. So that's what we're going to talk about here this morning. So this is the latest National Hurricane Center as of 5 a.m. Eastern Time. The maximum sustained winds again are 65 miles an hour. That's confirmed by Hurricane Hunter aircraft. We've got another Hurricane Air Force Hurricane Hunter in there right now. A NOAA plane is going in right behind them, and then we've got some more Air Force guys going out later this afternoon and overnight tonight for almost routine and continuous coverage, if we can, into the storm and how it's progressing. The new Hurricane Center forecast track has not been radically changed, although it still has that kind of eastward bend that we saw yesterday is still holding today. You can see the landfall point still somewhere in the Big Bend of Florida. Goalpost remains somewhere from Tampa to about Appalachia Bay. And there's hurricane watches still up all the way down to Port Charlotte and all the way over to Mexico Beach. So those two places that were hit hard by Ian and Michael, respectively, are all the kind of still the goalposts for what potentially could be hurricane conditions along the coast of Florida going into Tuesday night and Wednesday. The timing is slowed down just a tick. We are talking more like mid-morning Wednesday landfall versus pre-dawn landfall, but we are still expecting the storm to race across northern Florida, be right on over northern Florida during the day on Wednesday, and be moving offshore by Wednesday night. Um, the important things to talk about this morning is number one, Tampa. Tampa, Tampa, Tampa. You guys are under a very serious situation here today. It is going to be the big buzz. It's going to be the talk of the day today, and for good reason. This track, this easterly shift southward, is rapidly putting you guys in a worst case scenario. I want to be very clear about this. Tampa Bay is a open bay to the southwest. Okay, when these storms come in, they push water on their right side. Remember, these storms rotate counterclockwise. So the right side of the storm is pushing water towards the coast. The left side of the storm is pushing water away from the coast. When Ian hit last year, Ian cut south of you. And that's a big deal. It was very close to you, but the winds were mostly blowing offshore. You got some flooding, but not a lot. When Irma passed you 6 years ago, Irma went about 80 miles offshore and came in. It pushed some water in, but the water was pushing more south to north. So it only kind of grazed by the bay. You got some flooding. Think back to Zeta in 2020 or whichever Greek one that was. You got some very unexpected flooding because Zeta was a storm that came in kind of a funky way too. Idalia is coming in at a potential worst case scenario. This 45-degree angle, this bend that runs right into Tampa Bay, pushes all that water right into that open mouth of Tampa Bay. The new Hurricane Center forecast storm surge is 4 to 7 feet, and that is still conservative. If Idalia comes in just north of you, like the Insolante River or something, and it comes in as a Category 3 or God forbid, even higher than that, you were talking about a catastrophic storm surge, a 8 to 10 to 12-foot potential storm surge coming into Tampa Bay. I mean, it is that real. Tampa Bay is incredibly vulnerable to storm surge, and Tampa Bay's population has increased like hundreds and hundreds of percent since the last major flooding event there, which was like in the 1920s. I think it was a 1921 or 26 Tampa Bay hurricane. I want to say 21 or something. It was a very, very long time ago. The last time no one alive remembers the worst hurricane Tampa Bay's ever got since people lived there. Okay. So we're talking about a potential worst case scenario if this plays out like we think it might. So it's very important if you're in the Tampa Bay Clearwater area today to pay direly close attention to those flood maps. And if you were told to evacuate, get out. Do not screw with this water, because when this comes in, it is going to be nasty when it does. This is not going to be fun. And I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, they said that in Ian, and look what happened. That's because Ian spared y'all like you can't imagine at the last second. It careened south of you in that small change. This to this is a giant difference. It is a night and day, completely unrecognizable difference because the wind direction changes massively. So I really hope I can drill that point home. If you're in Tampa Bay or you know somebody in Tampa Bay, you need to make sure they're paying attention and taking this as seriously as they possibly can. So that is that is the first point for Jacksonville. Again, this track is kind of not what we wanted to see. This puts the storm, the core of the hurricane, moving almost directly over northern Florida, so over northeast Florida. This is going to put some pretty strong winds. As you can see, the Hurricane Center at 1 p.m. Wednesday has it stamped basically over Jacksonville, and it has it stamped as a hurricane. It'll probably be a minimal hurricane, a 75-mile-an-hour hurricane, but that is wind sustained 60, 65, 70, 75 miles an hour with wind gusts up higher than that. So we're talking about the potential for hurricane force wind gusts. The hurricane watch that you see on the West Coast actually extends inland, and it goes all the way to about the edge of northeast Florida. It does not include Clay, it does not include Duval, it does not include Flagler, it does not include Putnam. But any county to the west of that is under a hurricane watch. Hurricane force sustained winds are possible. That means for Jacksonville proper, hurricane force gusts are possible. I will be making a more specific, in-depth video later today, but for Jacksonville. I want to see some more model runs this morning. I want to get to the 5 p.m. advisory. I want the models to see Idalia's northward movement, and I want them to see everything one more time, and then we're going to talk my best guess for impacts, like winds, rain, everything that I can give y'all. But right now, you need to be preparing for a very high-end tropical storm with some hurricane force wind gusts mixed in. A very intense storm could be coming through as this moves through. Now, again, if we get the last minute heroics, if it cuts way off to the west side of this cone still and goes all the way up into Appalachia Bay and it stays 120 miles away, you will not be getting hurricane force sustained winds. If this cuts well south of you and goes into Tampa Bay and goes south of Gainesville and cuts out like by the Space Coast or down there like Palm Coast, again, you may come out not as bad because you'll be on the different side of the storm. But we play this game often, with these storms come in and then last minute something happens and we get like a Dorian where it comes right up to the coast and it moves or something. And we're like, oh, same thing with Ian. Ian dove south of our area and then it cut way out and then went back in and just went around Jacksonville. And we were like, oh, haha, we all shared the funny chair meme where it's fallen over and we will rebuild. It's happened several times. And when you cry wolf enough times, people stop paying attention. Please don't do that here because this one may not. This may not be the one that turns. It may be. It is if this cone you see holds. If this is the track, you are talking about a storm that is more intense than Irma and Matthew were. Now it will be different in some aspects as well. I don't want to scare anyone to death because some aspects will be different. It will not be Irma. It will not be Matthew. It will be Idalia. It'll be the one of. So there will be some things that are similar. There will be some things that are different. So I will cover all that in more detail tomorrow or later this afternoon. So just hang tight with me until later today. We will have all the details for Jacksonville, the best I can give you at the time, but I want to get a little more time under our belt and then we can go ahead and run that call. So until then, just again, the surge is a big problem. The rainfall threat's a big problem. This is going to combine with a front that's kind of hung up over Georgia. And look at the 5 to 8-inch rainfall totals that extend all the way up into South Carolina and probably even in North Carolina. This is also for the Carolinas. This is going to be something for y'all too. It's going to be a heavy rainfall and a strong tropical storm when it moves through you guys too. So a lot to talk about with this. We'll have another update video later on this afternoon, but you should be in full prep mode right now. Securing outside objects, generator, gas, food, water, filling up, bathtubs tomorrow and all that. We'll talk more about timeline and specifics later today, but that's kind of the big wave tops this morning. Those are the things I really wanted to get across this morning. The bottom line to recap, Idalia is strengthening. It had some time this morning where it's been kind of stumbling a little bit. It's thankfully not just blown past expectation yet. It's still holding as a tropical storm, but the indications on the satellite presentation are it's about to start going off. We think once it passes Cuba, it's pretty much going to be intensifying all the way up till landfall. There's not enough to slow it down whenever that warm water, once it gets going. It will make landfall sometime early on Wednesday. It will quickly move through Florida and be offshore by Wednesday night, but it'll be a very intense storm when it does. It has the potential to bring a life-threatening storm surge and a potentially catastrophic storm surge to Tampa Bay, and it has the chance to bring some very high winds to the rest of northern Florida and some of the panhandle of Florida. That includes Jacksonville and Lake City and Gainesville and Ocala and Orlando and a lot of folks up north, and then even in southern Georgia, Callahan, Nassau, Valdosta, Waycross, all y'all are going to be getting a pretty nasty hit from this as it moves through. So that's what I got for you guys this morning. Unfortunately, we are kind of shifting into that mode of, okay, it's coming. How are we going to deal with it? And not so much, well, wait and see what happens. Like we're very quickly getting out of wait and see. We're getting very close to action time. So I'll be getting with you guys again later today. We'll have another full update, and then we will have the Jacksonville update. That will all come after 5 p.m. tomorrow. I'm gonna get some sleep until then. If you guys have any questions, message me or comment. I will do my best to get back. I may not get back so much the next several hours, but then I'll be up and be at work all night, and I will be fully available to, help anyone out that needs it. So until then, guys, thanks for watching. Please stay safe. Please pay attention to local forecasts, local officials, read, heed, do what you got to do, run from water, hide from wind, all that. And I'll be back later today with more for you soon. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.